I'm a food addict compulsive eater, and I, like you, weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the gray sheet. I write those meals down. I commit them to my sponsor. I eat those meals and nothing else in between. And just for today, abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception. And by the grace of God and all you all, my abstinence date is March 31st, 2007. Thank you so much, Risa, for your lead, and Grania for moderating and recording, and the treasurer, who I've lost my Laura. And, I'm the booker, and I thought, who shall I ask for Christmas? And I said, me, because what a great gift to give myself, quite honestly. It's all very, it's a very self-focused piece, and what a great way to walk myself into the dinner hour, So hopefully I'll say just even one thing that might help you in your program. So I come by this disease honestly. My dad was a food addict, and both of my parents were binge drinkers at the very least. And as memory serves me, I started using food at about the age 8. That's when I really recall, sneaking food, and especially, the stuff that we put things between these slices of things. And there was a particular drawer in my family house at the time. I totally can hear that sound somewhere in my head where I hear things while I'm talking, which may say too much about me. But, I could just hear the sounds of that drawer squeaking and me trying to open it and not have it make any noise, and just how I could not go back. I was already doing that, I'm just going to have one. My parents were just on the other side of a wall, but I had to. I didn't know that at the time, so I started gaining weight, and my mom started putting me on diets. I don't recall ever losing weight on one of these diets. Maybe I did. I think I did a pretty good job of staying ahead of them with my eating. And, I remember being solicitous of, getting snacks at other people's homes, nudging my friends about, well, shouldn't we have a snack? Don't you think a snack's a good idea? And, knowing whose parents had the best snacks. And these were just things that were high on my priority list. In high school, we hung out at a particular, round carb parlor after games and whatnot, and of which I was not playing in, but I was a great spectator and enthusiast. And, I would just go around and eat off other people's, I kind of knew these people. And so that made it fair game for me. In puberty, I put on a pretty big chunk of weight. There's a GreySheeter who, when when I heard it the first time, she talks about, getting stretch marks around that time. And I had not remembered this, but just how scary that was when they're fresh and really red, and I didn't know what they were, and so it was scary. And it was the PE uniforms didn't fit me, and so I had to get one of the men's tops. And having to go into the group shower, what kind of holy hell do they still do? God, I hope they don't do that. Anyhow, I don't know. Okay, we'll go there a different time. It was horrible. And I was a really great buddy, but I had started to wonder about my sexuality. But nonetheless, I set myself up to be the buddy in high school. I didn't date. All my friends went to the prom with mostly a friend of mine's older brother came back from college and took one of our friends, and then lots of his friends took the rest of my friends. It was not ever even talked about with me. That was not even like I was even in that possibility. And I just kind of knew that. And And I'll tell you, I had a real resentment about 5 years ago when a friend of mine posted those pictures on Facebook. And I was like, Jesus, still we're not. Okay, sorry. I have dealt with that resentment. So anyhow, I got out of high school. I moved down to where my sister lived outside of Portland. And I found out in my senior year, my parents had no plans to send me to college, which is what I was banking on because I was really just in school to be social. So I did not have a good grade point average at all. And I couldn't really see past the fact that they didn't have plans for me to do that. They really saw me, getting some sort of file clerk kind of job and staying in that job till I got married and, kind of being out of their hair. And so I just started kind of floundering from one job to the next. I got jobs really easily. And I just, I picked up other substances and I just kind of started the years of kind of just getting by. And, I was not, I was really, my wit was always biting, something that I sometimes still have to work on, but I didn't know a different kind of humor. If it had to be at someone's expense. It was often mine, but not always, especially if I was mad. I also had, I was, the only relationships I had were with people who weren't available either because of marriage or sexuality or just not emotionally available. I wasn't putting myself in a position to risk and of course, another thing I didn't know at that time. So while Lou and Carol Jean didn't have an interest in me going to college, they did underwrite several big box diet programs. And so I went and I lost the same 60 or 80 pounds, probably 4 or 5 times. But when I would get down to anything that even was remotely in the neighborhood of a average weight, if I saw a curve, I just got too scared. If I got too much attention, I didn't know what to do with that. I had no way of dealing with life problems. And so usually sooner rather than later, I would pick up the food. And that's when I became bulimic of the vomiting kind, as just a way to lie, honestly, just a way to mitigate the weight from coming on and having to own that I had done it again. Let's see. I started, my mom died when I was a very immature 28, and I started with a therapist. And mostly, there was some the grief piece, but I was sure this was a way I was either going to be told that I was crazy or that I would lose weight. And I saw a number of different therapists, and and I remember one of my first therapists told me that he thought it was a spiritual crisis. And I was just like, wooey, wooey, what the heck does that mean? And so I lived alone for about 9 years in my early 30s, late 20s, early 30s. And things just progressed rapidly. I, would, go to the same store in the morning buying, vegetables and all the right things, and go to the same store in the evening, different checker with all of the wrong things. And I was good or bad completely based on what I was putting in my mouth. I would go through drive-throughs and I'd always order 2 beverages, or when I had food delivered, I'd order 2 beverages and I'd talk and wheeze, enjoy your food. Yes, we will. And I couldn't not just eat, and the volume just continued. And my relationships with my family got worse. And so I had my first real relationship, so to speak, in my mid 30s, and it was the first time. And so after I'd lived alone for 9 years, I moved in with my then wife, and it was, and I really saw how it had progressed, because there were these other people in my space, she and her stepdaughter. And so I really saw how I had to sneak. And I know I've told the story. I didn't realize this until I was several years into abstinence, but I would, we were still in the early throes of love, and I couldn't wait for her to leave. And it really it was a mind trip on me, because I thought, oh my God, maybe I don't love her. Maybe this, what is going on? I'm such a horrible person, da, 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 da. What I realized was I wanted to eat. She was in between me and the food, and that just was never going to work. We did some diets together, and I did well for a while, but then not. And so in retrospect, one of the reasons I think we were together, I don't think she probably sees it this way, but she, after a few years, she had a mini intervention with me. She was familiar with the 12-step programs from a professional relationship. And she said, I think you're a strong woman. I've seen you try to do this. If you could do it alone, I think you already would have. I don't think you can do alone. I think you need help. And how about OA? And I said, okay, great, right after my 40th birthday. And so I went to OA, and I am so very grateful. The first meeting, I remember so much about it. I mean, I don't remember a lot of things in my past, but I remember so much about that meeting. And I just felt so welcomed. It just felt warm, and people shared so honestly, and I felt welcomed. And then I don't think I've yet to tell a GreySheeters qualification where I haven't told this part, which is that they say that piece at the end where they say, you may not like us all, but we hope you grow to love us the same way we already love you. And I couldn't.
That's 12 minutes, Carla.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It washed over my body more quickly than my freakishly fast mind could spew it away as bullshit. And which means I took it in. It was wonderful. Second meeting, there was a woman who talked to me about the fact that she weighed and measured everything. And simultaneously, I think I thought, oh my God, get her away from me. And the other part of me was like, I bet that's really what I need to do. But that wouldn't come until a long time from then. I got a sponsor, which wasn't easy to do. It was weird to me that no one was talking about their food. The most specific I could get from someone when I asked about what they ate was, most people go off the white stuff. Well, for me at the time, I was, I don't know. I mean, part of me was like, I've never done cocaine. What are you talking about? I mean, that really isn't how it happened, but I wasn't sure what they meant by the white stuff. But my sponsor was helpful. I did the 3 sensible meals. Well, I'm not a sensible gal. I mean, sensible. That's just way too vague. That's like saying there's only one color of pink. And so sometimes it was, really sensible, and other times it wasn't. I mean, by the time that I quote unquote relapsed, I found it sensible to have a cocktail, which was 2 of the 3 meetings a day, and so, but I had a male sponsor, and he took me through the steps. And so I got to write my first 4th step and give away my first 5th step, which was really at the point which I could let go of that I was crazy, and that, that I wasn't deplorable. And some of the things that I'd done in my past that, I needed to make amends for were just garden variety things. They weren't the kind of things, as I thought, were from, some really fundamentalist religious experiences in my early 20s, that I was not one of the chosen ones because of. In fact, I was, because my sponsor said, oh yeah, those things. I couldn't shock him. And so that is just powerful stuff. So it worked till it didn't work. I started lying, and And so I just kind of became a visitor to the OA rooms. I knew at that point there was no going back out there into the world for me, into some other food program, but I didn't know what I was going to do, and I wasn't willing to do Grey Sheet at the time. I had listened to the folks who spoke very poorly of us, as in, we were really obsessed and we were a cult, and we only ate out of these big troughs, and we were just as all that, whatever. But I lived in the 250 pound range for most of my, give or take 50. But in the last few years, I went from 250 to around 275. And then in the last year before abstinence, I had a really horrendous year. I lost a job as an administrator at the church that I belonged to. And so lost my church community, and it was a wrongful termination. Just all kinds of things were going on. And so I got up to 325 pounds, and my health started failing really quickly. And I don't mean to sound too, as in, I couldn't deny that I had sleep apnea anymore. That my wife had told me that I'd been waking up gasping, but I said, what's she talking about? But I was waking myself up, and I knew I was. And so I had plantar fasciitis, and, just heartburn 24/7, and tingling all up and down my arms especially when I'd sleep. And sorry about that. And so I went into one of the annual events that OA has in March, and there were the two women who had the glow. I knew them, and they did not look like that the last time I'd seen them. And it did not matter it didn't matter what they were doing. I was on board. I didn't care I didn't care. As I remember, one of the first qualification tapes I got was a lovely woman with a British accent that said something like, "I don't care if she told me to stick my bum out the window." And it was like that. It was like, sure, that we eat dog food. We have to, always wear a top hat. I mean, it just doesn't matter. I was in. And so she told me what to eat. And a few days later, I found out there was something called the phone bridge. It's like, oh my God, I can be on the phone with these people on meetings all the time. And I lived on that. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but we do a lot of prep. I mean, there is a lot of shopping and whatnot, right? And so I could do that while I was on hold on the phone bridge. And I met so many people from all over the United States and then outside of the United States. It really grew myself as a person. And all the while I was learning all these ways that you guys do this no matter what, because of course, then, I just didn't really get what that meant. And, and what it means for me now is, it means I do this no matter what. Even after I've lost 180 pounds on this program, I gained 40 of it back over a period of 2 years. And I stayed in Grey Sheet, and I weighed and measured no matter what. And it was really hard. And I had surgeries, and I had a very complicated divorce, which included infidelity. And I got married. I fought for marriage rights, and then I did it. And then I did divorce. Thank you so much. And I changed careers. I left a job that was really not feeding me. And I hung my own shingle. And most recently in the pandemic, I have gone back to school, which I have wanted to do so badly. And, in the pandemic, it really became, it's like, if not now, when, for sure. So, one of the things I do that's really important to me that mitigates some no matter what, and just has me feel a lot more secure about my program, is I have backup. I have food in this house that I could most definitely go for a week with all my favorite things. And I have backup in my car. I have several scales. I keep a printed list of phone numbers in my car. And I feel I just feel so much more secure doing those things. I delivered a Christmas gift to my brother yesterday, whom I'm mostly estranged from. He's an end-stage active alcoholic, and it's just too difficult to be with him. So I thought I'd probably be home long before lunch, but it just makes me feel better to have my lunch with me. I don't have to be nervous at all about it. And I know that, I have it afterwards if I want to eat it. And so I had it with me. I had a really good visit with my brother, and I drove home and I had my dinner or my lunch in the space that I, normally eat my meals. But, I don't, having backup for me is both, it allows for a bit more spontaneity if I'm out there in the world and it's time to eat and I don't have my food. I have scales, and when there's not a pandemic, there are restaurants. And the last thing before I'm done is to say service is the thing. Service is slimming. And as I continue in my abstinence, service is where I get to do lots of relationship work, where I get to practice principles before personalities. And I need all the help I can get in that arena. And, and it also, I was saying on another meeting today that being with all of you guys, okay, thanks, helps me be with the people out there in the world, like my brother, who aren't people that I necessarily would have a relationship with, but that I can be in a loving and kind way with. So I pass. Thank you so much.